Hey Troopers, just doing a quick how-to video or sharing some information with you today. Island Trooper 4x4, working on old Goldie here. I'd like to do a proper introduction. We're just having a quick coffee break and I want to send this video out to Sean of BC, this is KB84, and also George from Vancouver Island. I got a lot of work to do on Goldie, as you can see, before I can do a proper introduction, but in the meantime we're just going to do a quick video here because I'm getting a number of requests on these windshield wiper motor assemblies and the armature. So I'm going to share with you everything I've got today and you know, just share with you how I would strip them off. In this situation, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get in here with some penetrating lubricant and put it on this collar, and I don't want to use a heavy petroleum, maybe a lithium grease, or just a little PB blaster, you know, but I'm not going to throw a 3-in-1 or any kind of mineral oil on there. And again, here on these threads where this nut is, so it's just as simple as lifting up this collar and you're exposing that. If you want to actually take the arm off, it depends on what you're doing, right? But so we're going to go through the whole thing today. If you want to take the arm off and repaint it, give it new wipers, whatever it needs, then sometimes these pins, it's a friction fit, okay, and there are actual grooves here on the main pin, and so you definitely want to throw a little penetrating lube on, break that nut off, and in some cases, you know, I'll hammer on the end of the pin. Now, I mean, you know, skip the whole like winding the nut out to the end of the bolt. I'm not actually hitting it that hard, okay, so I'm just trying to get enough braking force in there to separate the two, because sometimes they will stick on there when, you know, they're really good. And so yeah, there's a couple different pieces in here that can wear out, and as you'll notice, the main retaining nut is like a cast pot metal, really cheap shit, but you know, doing well for being 27 years old. So I've got a full unit that's already dismounted, and we'll just take a look at the beast and see how it's holding up, because it's the one that gave us our donor to take a look at today. So the beast is outside and definitely not happy, but giving up some really good parts here, definitely. So what it looks like, as you can see, once you get them removed, then you end up with a giant hole on the top, right? And that is a source of rust and corrosion. I don't know if you can see that. So in a full restoration, I'm definitely going to pull these off and pay attention to this. But once you get those arms removed and you get the covers and the gaskets, there's a little gasket underneath. Once you get those removed, then you can pull the pins back down inside, and inside the cavity here, you can see this one was parked underneath a pine tree. Wow, that's also, of course, a source of water retention and corrosion. But anyways, once you get the motor removed, as I was telling Sean on our phone call, you get that motor removed and you can actually just pull the whole armature out through this hole on the passenger side. So through the motor hole, you know, there is maybe going to be a little bit of gasket material left around the edge. I wouldn't worry about that too much. The original gasket's still going to hold together in most cases. So once you pull that out, then we can take a look at how it's put together. Now, I did some research on the manuals too, so we'll have a quick look. You know, we get down to the this is a 1988 KB84 manual. And honestly, I was hoping to find something, and really they come at it from the factory manual point of view of an installer who's experienced and isn't really going to need a lot of instruction on stuff like this motor assembly, because it is pretty simple. But I was surprised not to find anything. You know, like I went to the accessory section and I was expecting to find something, you know, but nothing, just a lot of stuff on the propeller shafts. One of the more interesting things that I did find was the section for headlamp washers for a 1988 KB84. And yeah, you heard me, headlamp washers. So there's some interesting stuff in that accessory section, but nothing on windshield wipers. When we get to the Haynes manual, yeah, definitely found some stuff in here, and I'll show you exactly where that is. That's going to be on page 277. of your Haynes manual, and that's, I don't know if you can make that out very well, it's chassis electrical systems. Sorry for the cheap camera, guys. And so down in section 13 we get down to windshield motors, and that's the removal and installation, right? And so yeah, again they talk about the top nut here, just lifting the collar, pulling the nut out, and you get the electrical connectors off. There is a ground wire that attaches to the bolt on the lower driver's side there. And again, it's a little bit of work to split the motor once, because those gaskets are pretty much glued in place. So the Haynes manual has some good info on that, but really not very much, because the next page goes right into the dash. And then I get down to the Chilton's manual, and this is where I find some of the best info. Honestly, if I'm having a hard time finding stuff in other manuals, I love the Chilton's for that. They're very detailed. So we go to chassis electrical on section 6 and 9, and we have right here windshield blade and arms, and then the rear windshield motor. So it's a pretty thorough section, and again they just refer down to that pin, pulling the collar back, getting that nut off, and then, you know, like I say, I tap the pin on the head if I want to get that arm to come off. A lot of times they stick, so just don't tap it too hard. And then they get down inside and they show you the motor itself on 610 and the ball and socket system. And so we're going to take a look right now. We got on the bench here the whole assembly, okay? And so actually I'll just flip it around here so we're on the right side. Oh, it's not standing very well. So from under the hood, here's the view that we normally see, right? There's the motor, and it's just sitting on the back of the firewall right there. And inside, down right here, you can see there's these, like, I believe they're nylon cup sockets, and they have a little hole there that retains the pin, and the ball snaps right in. Now that one is looking pretty nasty, right? And so when I go to lubricate these, I'm going to use a white lithium grease. I'm not going to use, again, anything that's going to eat the plastic is what I'm hoping to stay away from. There are two different sizes, so can't really see too well, but the one that's on the motor here is larger than the two small outer arms. And so this here, we're looking at the passenger, you know, the passenger windshield wiper. There's our retaining nut. So we pull that nut off, and then of course the arm would be under there with the wiper attached. We get the main nut off, and then the collar just slides up. You might have to pry it a little bit, and then underneath there you've got your gasket, and now you got the main lower assembly with these alignment pins. And so it just rocks back and forth on these arms and this ball and socket setup. And so you can see here there's two sockets, two balls, and of course that's the way we want to be, right fellas? Like to keep them both. And if this falls out, you know, if this is of course the driver's side, and so if anything happens to this cup, or it gets brittle and cracks, you know, this set we're looking at is from an 89, so we're talking about a truck that would be 30 years old next year, and I'm willing to bet this is original equipment. You know, it's not uncommon for me to see big piles of pine needles and stuff under there, and so the original lube that was in here is definitely gone in most cases. And so to pop those apart, I'm just going to gently pop them out with pulling the ball out of the socket, and then you can actually replace these. Now I have a new source, so I can't access these brand new, but I do also have, you know, sets of some used equipment, and so generally what I'm looking for is to see that this cup is in good shape, and the retention pin, I don't know if you can see it, I just got a clothesline, a little twist tie there. Anyways, there's a little tiny bead on the end, and that retains it inside so it doesn't twist and turn. And that's, if it breaks, that's what, you know, eventually if it starts twisting and turning, then the ball's going to come out of the socket. You know, and then you got no windshield wiper that's working, and it's just like flopping around like one-armed Jimmy. So it can cause damage inside there, or it can just get worse, and then all of a sudden you have no windshield wipers altogether. So anyways, I hope that helps, fellas. If you need any more information from these manuals, I can definitely share with you. Of course, copyright infringement, I've got to be careful with that. So I just want to share with you what I've found in commonly available manuals. The shop manual, no help at all. This one here, I can pick it up at Canadian Tire anywhere in Canada. Any Lordco auto parts place will order it in if they don't have it on stock. Alright fellas, keep the rubber side down. Later.